Dr. Eris Thorne knelt in the perpetual twilight of Xylos 7, his breath fogging the cracked visor of his environmental suit. The air tasted of rust and decay, a constant reminder of this world's status as a galactic scrap heap. His gloved fingers traced the edge of a shard of crystallized alien technology, its surface humming with a low, resonant frequency. For 3 cycles, he'd been cataloging the refuse of a dozen dead civilizations, and for 3 cycles, the Unified Galactic Council's laws of physics had remained an unbreakable gospel. Until now, a faint, rhythmic pulse, unlike any he'd recorded, emanated from the shard. It wasn't energy. It wasn't matter. It was a pressure, a gravitational anomaly so subtle it felt like a memory. He pulled a portable graviton scanner from his belt, its display flickering with static as he zeroed in on the anomaly. The numbers on the screen didn't just change, they inverted. Mass, he realized with a jolt of pure, unadulterated terror, wasn't a constant. It was a variable, and the variable was emotion. Kalen, a young Veiler whose bioluminescent skin had faded to a sickly gray, watched the giant human from the shadows of a corroded starship engine. The human, Eris, was different from the other scavengers. He didn't just take, he looked. He'd found Kalen huddled among the wreckage of his parents' vessel, a small, silent child among the dead. Eris had knelt, not with a weapon, but with a nutrient bar, his expression unreadable behind the helmet's reflective visor. Now, he sat cross-legged on the rust-colored ground, the strange shard humming in his palm. Kalen crept closer, drawn by the soft, melodic hum that seemed to soothe the aching emptiness inside him. Eris didn't flinch when a small, 3-fingered hand touched his arm. He simply turned his head, and for the first time, Kalen saw the human's face. There was no pity, only a profound, weary curiosity. You feel it too, don't you? Eris's voice was a low rumble, amplified by the suit's external speakers. The pressure, the wrongness. The fungal network, a creeping tide of black mycelium and chitinous growths, had consumed half of Sector Gamma. Eris, now with Kalen tucked safely into a makeshift carrier on his chest, navigated the treacherous landscape. The air grew thick with spores, and the ground vibrated with the collective consciousness of the hive mind. He wasn't just a scavenger anymore. He was a refugee. The UGC had declared Xylos 7 a quarantine zone, a tomb for the dead and the damned. But Eris had found something they hadn't. He pulled the humming shard from a pouch, its light intensifying, repelling the advancing fungal tendrils. Kalen, whose people were attuned to subtle energy fields, pointed a trembling finger. It's hungry. The child's voice, a series of clicks and whistles, translated by Eris's rudimentary comm unit. It wants the quiet. Eris looked from the pulsing crystal to the encroaching darkness. The anomaly wasn't just a physical phenomenon, it was a key, and he was the only one who knew the lock. Commander Vorlax of the UGC fleet watched the tactical display with cold, multifaceted eyes. The report from Xylos 7 was a litany of failure. The fungal infestation was spreading at an exponential rate, consuming not just biomass but energy signatures, starship hulls, and even hope. The quarantine was a death sentence for the remaining colonists, and a potential galactic catastrophe if the spores breached the atmosphere. Thorne is still on the surface, a subordinate chirped, refusing extraction. He claims he's found a countermeasure. Vorlax's mandibles clicked in disdain. A single human, playing scientist in a graveyard. Let him have his final moments, the commander growled. The spores will consume him, and his pet. We will sterilize the planet from orbit. The decision was made. The cleansing fire would begin in 12 hours. Eris Thorne had no idea he was already dead. Eris and Kalen had taken refuge in a collapsed data center, its servers still flickering with ghostly light. The child was huddled in a corner, his small body shaking. They're coming, Kalen whispered, his voice thin with fear. The hum of the shard was growing louder, a physical pressure in the air. Eris knew he was onto something. The shard wasn't just emitting an anomaly, it was responding to it. He interfaced it with a salvaged UGC datapad, feeding it the raw data he'd collected. The screen erupted in a cascade of impossible equations, gravity wells that spiraled into emotional states, mass fluctuations tied to synaptic activity. The Unified Galactic Council's laws were a lie. A convenient fiction built by a species that couldn't perceive the universe's true nature. The universe wasn't made of matter and energy. It was made of belief. And the fungal network was a belief in entropy, a desire for the final, silent peace of nothingness. The first tremor was subtle, a vibration that traveled up Eris's spine. Then the lights in the data center died, plunging them into darkness. From the corridor outside came a sound like 1,000 wet, chittering voices. The fungal network had found them. Eris scooped up Kalen, the shard clutched in his free hand. Its light was now a blinding white, casting long, dancing shadows of the encroaching mycelium. Kalen, Eris said, his voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. I need you to think. Think of something. Anything. Happy. The child looked at him, his large, dark eyes wide. He thought of his mother's song, a melody he could barely remember. The shard pulsed in response, a wave of warmth washing over them. The chittering outside faltered for a second. It was working. The anomaly wasn't just a theory, it was a weapon powered by a child's memory. Vorlax watched the orbital bombardment countdown tick down. 6 hours until sterilization. A communication request flashed on his console, routed from the surface. It was Eris Thorn. The commander almost ignored it, a final, pathetic plea from a doomed man. But something made him open the channel. The human's face was grim, illuminated by the glow of the humming crystal he held. A small, gray alien child clung to his chest. Commander Vorlax, Eris said, his voice carrying a weight of authority Vorlax had never heard from a human. I am not asking for evacuation. I am offering you a solution. But you have to stop the bombardment. Now. Vorlax's chittering laugh was a dry rasp. You have a solution to the Great Devourer? Speak quickly, human. Your time is over. Eris didn't flinch from the commander's scorn. He held the shard up to the comm unit's camera. The UGC's physics are incomplete. He began, his words sharp and precise. Mass is not a constant. It is a variable, influenced by conscious will, by belief, by emotion. This shard, he gestured to the pulsing crystal, is a focal point. It amplifies that connection. The network isn't just consuming biomass, it's consuming belief. It's a psychic cancer that sees life as noise and craves silence. He paused, letting the words sink in. I can't fight it with weapons. Weapons are just more noise. But I can fight it with a counterfrequency. A belief so powerful it can drown out the silence. He looked down at Kalen, who had stopped shaking and was now watching him with an unnerving stillness. The child is the key. His species has a latent psychic ability. We just need to amplify it. To make him believe, with every fiber of his being, in the permanence of life. Vorlax was silent for a long moment, his multiple facets processing the impossible information. It was madness. It was heresy against the sacred laws of science. But the alternative was annihilation. The bombardment is halted. The commander finally said, his voice strained. You have one cycle. Prove your theory. The comm channel cut off. Eris slumped against a wall, the weight of the universe pressing down on him. He knelt before Kalen, who looked up at him with an expression of pure, unfiltered trust. Kalen, Eris said softly, taking the child's small hands in his. I need you to do something for me. I need you to believe. Believe in the stars. Believe in the wind. Believe in me. He placed the shard in the child's hands. The crystal's light flared, and Kalen's bioluminescent skin began to glow, not with a sickly gray, but with a brilliant, golden light. The fungal network was no longer a creeping tide. It was a roaring wave, a tsunami of black chitin and grasping tendrils, flooding the data center. Eris stood before it, a lone figure shielding the glowing child. He didn't have a weapon. He had only his own will, his own desperate, unwavering belief. He thought of Kalen's smile, the warmth of the nutrient bar, the impossible beauty of a universe that could be shaped by a thought. He focused on that belief, pouring it into the space between them and the network. The golden light from Kalen expanded, a wave of pure, unadulterated life. It met the black tide, and there was no explosion, no sound. Only a silent, shimmering barrier. The network recoiled, its chittering screams echoing in a psychic void. The Great Devourer was being devoured by something it couldn't comprehend, hope. As the light faded, Eris looked down at Kalen, who was now smiling, a small, perfect expression of victory in the heart of a dying world. He had rewritten the laws of physics, not with equations, but with a smile.